Hello and welcome back to the Hat Warrior for the 10th anniversary of World of Warriors Water Day. We're going to be doing an iceberg video. If you don't know what an iceberg video is, it basically covers information about a certain topic ranging from most well known, so the top of the iceberg, to incredibly obscure right at the bottom of the iceberg. I hope you find that something you didn't already know, you enjoy it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the rest of the video. Tier 1, just above the surface. So this section covers a lot of relatively well-known things that basically aren't directly exactly within the game, sort of thing. So the first thing on the iceberg is, of course, Bone Shaker. Now this entry refers to the final boss of World of Warriors, who was never in any of the games, called King Bone Shaker. He briefly features in one of the, in the World of Warriors music video and on the front of the official guide. However, he was never seen within game. The next entry is Lore. Now this is just the general lore of World of Warriors, so that is about the fact that the Wildlands began as a world ruled by 4 elemental lords who opened portals to other worlds which allowed the Wildlanders to summon warriors. Through one of these portals came an entity known as the Darkness, which the elemental lords fought off, but only just about, and so then they left, leaving only one of the portals they'd created open, which was the Temple of Epics, which is how we summon warriors in the game. And then later, Bone Shaker, prior to adopting the name, comes through and uses old stories of the Wildlands to manipulate the Wildlanders into making him kind of this king figure, and he ends up being corrupted by the Darkness. Caliban fights him. They both almost get destroyed, and so they both take a break, and then Bone Shaker hides with the Darkness and becomes more and more corrupted, and that's kind of where our story then takes place, where the player is the chosen one and has to save the Wildlands. Duel and Quest. Duel and Quest are the 2 mobile spin-off games for World of Warriors. They both feature completely different gameplay mechanics, and only one of them even features summoning warriors. They're okay, but as most people will say, they really don't scratch the itch that Warriors does. So, yeah, check out my video on Quest if you want to know, and then Duel is basically just a fastest finger first game. Collectible minions. So this is again another one which perhaps is maybe even too obvious to even put on this chart, but I thought I'd put it on here anyway. In the game, you could collect the minions either through winning arena seasons or through summoning them from the Western Door. Days Waiting. This is in reference to the Days Waiting for the fan server, which are posted daily on the Discord server, up until the release of the fan server. There's been, as of recording, almost 380 days, but when this goes live, it'll probably be slightly more than that. And every day something new changes about the picture. Guess That Warrior. Guess That Warrior was a 170-day long event, during which each day a picture of a warrior would be shown along with a little brief description about them, and you had to guess which warrior it was. It was run by the 47th Ronin, and it was pretty fun. Shutdown. This is, of course, one of the most obvious ones for anyone who is still watching this, which is the fact that World of Warriors shut down. the game ended, and that was basically it for a while. But now there's something new. A New Hero. A New Hero was the official World of Warriors book that was released. It was supposed to kickstart a series, but that seemingly got cancelled as a result of basically what happened to all of the Warriors projects that never got finished. It was written by Curtis Jobling, author of various other book series, and it was pretty good. Tier 2, just below the surface. So this tier is dedicated to the sort of things that you have to have a pretty decent interest in the game to kind of come across. Something that might not necessarily be directly obvious, but if you dig below the surface, you kind of get to it. Unreleased Warriors. Unreleased Warriors refers to the 3 warriors that are found in the officially published Book of Warriors. Yeah, they were never released in the game and don't actually exist within the game files, but there were pictures of them and details and their special moves were all written in the officially published Warrior book. Malik and Hua. This is in reference to the meme that Malik and Hua are 2 of the worst characters in the game concerning their stats and special moves and etc. This is because Malik has really bad stats and 1 pip regeneration, which is largely considered the worst special move combo, and Hua is the same, except she has stealth strike at 1 pip and all of her stats are rubbish. Gods. This is in reference to the fact that at least some of the Norse gods are canon within the game, as seen in Quest, that both Odin and Fenrir exist within the World of Warriors universe, which is interesting. There's not much more to it than that. Old Seasonal Warriors. This entry refers to the fact that originally seasonal warriors like Jacko and Krimpus and Kringle were all only available for the period around Christmas or Halloween and couldn't be upgraded. This was then changed later on. Duel is canon. This is in reference to the official summoning video for Lance, I believe, where Lance is summoned to the Wildlands, and instead of appearing in regular terrain like all of the others do, he appears on top of the Duel pillar from the spin-off game Duel, and has to fight against Serpent, I believe. Early access. This is in reference to the fact that there was an early access game or version of the game which had very different UI and NPC design and warrior card design, which was released to certain Android users prior to the release of the full game and allowed them to give their input. Shaka. This is in reference to the meme that was popular when the forums and the original World of Warriors was up, in which Shaka was considered one of the worst warriors in the game, largely due to the same reasons as Malik and Hua, as mentioned earlier. The books are a dream. This is in reference to the theory that A New Hero is entirely a dream of the protagonist. This is backed up by various bits of evidence, such as the fact that all the warriors the main character sees are he encounters earlier on in a museum, and the fact that the way he's in a fight and the way he escapes is by being transported to a different world. There are also a couple of other things that I can't remember quite right now that also point to this. It follows a very normal sort of person is unhappy with their life and gets sent into a dream world sort of structure. Manawa error. This is in reference to the fact that Manawa in both the cards and the figures is represented as an earth element rather than a water element. This is quite strange because if it were that Mind Candy intended to make a water warrior earth so that there would be an equal balance or some change in balance, it would make sense not to choose a water warrior whose special move was water boost. So it seems like it's likely an error that Manar was sent off as earth rather than air, but we're not 100% sure on that. Offline. This is a reference to the fact that it is technically possible to beat the entire World of Warriors game in offline mode as long as you can pass the first registry point. This is due to the fact that any online materials such as tower tokens, emblems of glory, tower trophies, and any of the portal masks can be found in random encounter chests. So theoretically, given enough time, the entire game could be beaten in offline mode. Javelin. The javelin is thrown in arenas when a player scores 3 perfect hits in a row and contributes extra points if they score a KO with it. When used, the javelin's red bar slowly disappears as the indicator moves towards it, making it harder to score good and perfect hits. Where this javelin comes from isn't exactly clear, but is implied to come from the crowd of the arenas. Darkness shards. This is in reference to another part of Quest's storyline, which is that part of the Darkness's punishment was that it was imprisoned somehow and that it was broken up and distributed in pieces. These darkness shards are kind of pure distilled essences of darkness and infect anyone who comes into direct contact with it. Credit warriors. Credit warriors are warriors which are named after anyone who worked on the original project. Examples include Alkan, Ram, and Anil. They're all named after people on the development team. Vanished equipment. Vanished equipment is a reference to a bug that was introduced in the last update of World of Warriors 1.13.0, which for some reason made all of the training equipment disappear. Not 100% sure if this is a thing that happens across all copies of the game from that era, but it certainly was a case in multiple different ones. Tier 3. The Iceberg goes deeper. Okay, this tier is dedicated to rather obscure things that, however, have been posted on the Discord at least once, if not twice, I think, is the sort of thing. And these are more... The next 2 tiers are rather similar. The main thing that distinguishes these is these are slightly more well-known by people who are on the Discord server than the bottom ones, but they have to have been posted a minimum of 1 time. So, Twitch. This entry refers to the World of Warriors Twitch account, which includes various streams discussing early versions of updates which allowed players to give their inputs. There are lots of unreleased features discussed on there, and they're very interesting to watch. The Totem Carver. The Totem Carver entry refers to the person who created, or the people, or the organization, or whoever created the elemental upgrade items, so elemental figurines, idols, and totems. We don't know who created them, but due to their look and the flavor text of the different portal locations, we know there is someone behind this, and it's likely that these may have been the elemental lords. I may discuss this in more detail in a further video. old materials. This refers to an aspect of the early access game, which was the fact that all of the materials that have been mentioned, so like elemental materials and some of the in-game materials, had different names and were represented with different icons. The main difference was the elemental bits. So there was water shards, water stones, and then each element, elemental shards, elemental stones, and also an individual elemental item. So, for example, it was water, grass, air, feather, etc. Interestingly, the totems, figurines, and idols, despite being new things, retained their original names in the files. A Gulick error. This error is slightly less well known, which is the fact that a Gulick on the trading cards actually has Phantom Strike instead of Phantom Shield on his special move card. Scrolls. This is another reference to the early access game, where prior to the invention of Battle Brew, players used scrolls to enter the Tower of Trials. Crixus? This entry refers to an early version of Crixus, where he's depicted holding a sword instead of his signature trident. These were only posted to the wiki, as far as we know, and were never actually included in the game. Website codes. This entry refers to the codes that were given with merchandise during the game's run and could be used on the website to redeem codes. However, these weren't properly checked, and as such, one code could be used to reveal all features associated with the type of code it was. That was another thing with codes, is that a certain code was associated with certain features. So, for example, a trading card code would reveal different rewards to a Battle Temple code. Gamepedia. This is a reference to the World of Warriors wiki and its origins. It had a turbulent history, so to say, which was the fact that it was created on the version of fandom prior to it being called Wikia, even, and then had a second one created, both officially by Mind Candy. It had a second one created on the version of Gamepedia prior to it being called Gamepedia, and then those wikis merged to create the latest fandom wiki, which of course I've been updating. Mega plus element. This entry refers to the fact that one can almost negate damage by equipping Mega Armor and Elemental Shield to a warrior, reducing all attacks to single-digit damage almost, or at least double-digit damage, and essentially keeping anyone alive for as long as possible. This was originally shown off by Zone in a post in the original Discord server, but there is no proper record of it at the moment and is not actually possible within the game. Rodrigo chest. The Rodrigo chest is a reference to the fact that Rodrigo used to be obtainable from the top floor tower chest. I don't know how long this was available for, but it was a temporary possibility. Coruscant, Crocoville, and Caliban. This entry is a reference to the in-game names for certain characters. So Coruscant is a reference to Master Fu, Crocoville is the in-game name for Lagunas, and Caliban with a C is the file name for the pictures of Caliban. In addition to this, there is also a file of the file for Caliban in a different pose is called Mentor, but that's kind of past this entry. Pre-releases. This entry is a reference to the fact that there were various warriors showcased in early trailers for the game that never made it in, or variants of early warriors that never made it in. This also includes minions that weren't released. No-Go is from another world. This references the heavily implied theory that No-Go was actually summoned from not the Wildlands and not the Farlands, aka Earth, but from a different place altogether. It also opens up to interpretations that No-Go was already infected by the darkness prior to being summoned. Layer 4. Deep Below. This layer, like I said, includes all entries which have been mentioned at least once from the Discord but are not common knowledge, or at least not well known, and will likely not be known outside of the Discord. The Empty Fight. The Empty Fight is a glitch that can occur when a player uses the double click glitch on location markers, causing them to stay kind of activated. When this happens, the battle screen will glitch and still remain shown, but the fight will cost 1 meat and offer 1,000 coins. However, when the fight is actually initiated, the player will be taken to an empty battle screen with no warriors and nothing happening in Bonehenge for some reason. It's quite a strange glitch, and there has not been any explanation as to why this happens. Tutorial Softlock. This is a reference to the fact that should a player beat the third unwinnable fight of the tutorial, it's designed to be unwinnable, but it can actually be beaten, without summoning a rare, they will not have a warrior that can equip a talisman at the end of the tutorial, and as such will be soft-locked. How this was never encountered during the game's lifespan, I will not understand. Grimbit. Grimbit is a warrior that is referenced in the game files, however has no associated images or isn't an in-game name for another character that already exists, such as in the cases of Korosu and Crocodile, being Master Fu and Lagunas respectively. Nothing is known about this warrior other than the fact that his name exists somewhere within the game files. It is theorized that this could perhaps be a reference to King Boneshaker, but nothing was ever confirmed. Prototypes. This entry refers to the fact that there were certain figures shown in the advertisements that were believed to have been prototype figures, but never released officially. This is because there are, of the main figures that were released to collect, or at least supposedly existed, only 6 of each element were actually released in both forms. There are also the 2 exclusive ones to the battle temples, but all others were never released. However, most promotional pictures feature at least a majority cast of the figures that were never released. As such, there's a belief that there may be prototype figures, which would be the warriors that are not available in general packs. Roman Gladiator. Roman Gladiator is a reference to a pre-releaser, as mentioned on the previous layer. However, Roman Gladiator was a feature in the game in a much more key manner. It was allowed as a profile picture on the forums, and was also available in various ads for the game, but was then removed in the final version. It is also what one of the original concept arts of the game included. Grey Book stickers. The Grey Book, or the official sticker book, is one of the hardest to obtain World of Warriors items, and as such there are only 2 copies of it known to exist within the community at the moment. The interesting thing with it is there are stickers that include art and game features that were never actually officially released. Due to the low prevalence of the sticker book itself, and the fact that this is never been shared with anyone outside of the 2 people who own the book, it is so low on this list. The Unknowns. Throughout the World of Warriors warrior book, in-game that is, there are various coming soon spaces. These are in reference... The unknowns. This entry is a reference to 2 different types of warrior/Skull Army minion. There are various places within the warrior book which are filled with coming soon spaces. We know what special moves these warriors must have, but we know nothing else about them other than which group they must be a part of. The warriors must be a 4-pip Twister, 3 and 4-pip Stun Strike, 4-pip Stealth Assault, 3 and 4-pip Double Strike, 3 and 4-pip Shock Storm, and a Fire Booster and an Earth Booster. In addition, the unknowns also refers to the 3 different minions shown in prototype images of the game, which were then removed. These could be reference to Bone Shaker's final guard, which could make up a potential final enemy section or like pre-enemy section, like a mini boss before you fight King Bone Shaker, or they could just be designs that were never kept in. Thunder. This is a reference to the last element, or the 5th element of the game, which was supposed to be included, and is even included on certain wiki pages as a design element, but was then in the end removed. Its remnants can still be seen in Thunder Strike and Rolling Thunder, which would have been the equivalents of Tornado Strike and Tempest, or Frozen Crunch and Ice Storm, etc. Those sorts of special moves for the Thunder element. It's unknown whether it was have been neutral, like the Dark element was in the end. However, Dark is also listed as an element, so perhaps there was a 5-way elemental wheel, or something else. Maybe it would have been the counter to Dark. We don't know. Layer 5, the Deep. This layer is stuff that I know about but has not been posted on the Discord server. These are very, very niche things that very few people will know about. In fact, I think it's probably just me and a couple of others. So that's why they're here. That's why there's also only 5 of them. So let's begin. Item error. Item error is a reference to a glitch that can happen for an unknown reason, in which a player will randomly receive a large quantity of a certain item. This is proven in the fact that it has happened to me twice, once with Honor Stones and once with Boost Potions. I'll show you screenshots from less than a week apart of my Honor Stone tally, and then my Honor Stone tally after the glitch, and my Boost Potion count and my Boost Potion count after the glitch. It is impossible to have collected this quantity of those items in the time it took for them to appear. They just appeared one time when I logged on. I don't know what causes it. It's a very interesting one. Overtraining. Overtraining is in reference to a bug that I found when playing with my device on low power mode. Like, it was on 1% low power mode. It was about to die. And there was a glitch which caused the character currently in training, which, if I recall correctly, was Belthrax, to train past the level cap and keep going up. She trained all the way up to level 54 before capping out, and my game crashed, and then my device shut down. I have no screenshots of this due to the low power. I did attempt to take screenshots or record it, but I cannot find any of those. It did not seem like they saved. World of Warriors Brawl. World of Warriors Brawl was a web game briefly featured on the World of Warriors website. Nothing is known about how the game worked. There are a couple of concept arts found on a website online by the designer. Nothing else is known about it. If you played it, please reach out. I'd like to know what it was like. But that's literally all we know. We just know it existed and that it was a game. We know nothing else, and that it was available on the Warriors website. Guilds. Guilds were something that was briefly mentioned in one of the update Twitch streams. Guilds were the idea that you could create groups with other players and either share materials or something, or have some communal thing you worked on. They were never properly realised, but it was something that was discussed with a lot of passion at Mind Candy. And finally, alternative Fishworth. This is a reference to the blue alternate version of Fishworth found in the prototype picture. And if you don't know who Fishworth is, he is a character from Quest, a giant fish that consistently wakes up all of the characters from dreams they're having. This one is blue and looks kind of more heroic. We have no clue what his supposed purpose was in Quest Chapter 2, and we'll never know, but it's quite an interesting one, and a very interesting one to finish off on. Thank you for listening to this Iceberg video. I hope it's introduced you to some new things that you hadn't heard of before, and I will see you next time, aka tomorrow, when we will be releasing the Zone interview, if I'm correct, if all goes to plan. So I'll see you then, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hat Warrior, signing off.